What is up, Breaking Bad family? Welcome back to the ultimate what-if laboratory, where we cook up the craziest alternate timelines from the Albuquerque underworld. Today, we are tackling a scenario so dark, so game-changing, and so absolutely insane that it would have completely rewritten the DNA of the entire show. We are going back to the sweltering heat of Season 2, Episode 2, Grilled. You know the one. The bell, the burrito, the bouncing car, the sheer, unadulterated terror of Tuco, Salamanca. But before we dive into the madness, let's set the stage. Remember where we were? Walt and Jesse are kidnapped, trapped in a shack in the middle of the desert, with a psychotic meth kingpin who snorts crushed crystal off a Bowie knife. The tension is thick enough to cut with a jagged piece of glass. They try to poison him with ricin. They fail. Tio Salamanca rings that iconic bell, ding, 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 alerting Tuco that something is wrong. It is chaos, it is panic, and it all culminates in one of the most stressful shootouts in television history. In the timeline we know and love, Hank Schrader, the DEA's finest, tracks Jesse's car via LoJack. He pulls up thinking he's busting a small-time pothead, and instead walks straight into an M16-wielding maniac. Now, here is the facts part of our edutainment mix. Did you know that Raymond Cruz, the absolute legend who played Tuco, actually asked to be killed off? Yeah, for real. He told the writers that playing Tuco was physically and mentally exhausting. The screaming, the intensity, it was draining his soul. Because of that, the writers had Hank win that duel. Hank gets the lucky reload, pops up, and boom, headshot. Tuco is down. Walt and Jesse escape. The story moves on. But what if Raymond Cruz had said, "Nah, I'm good. Let's keep this crazy train rolling"? What if the sun was in Hank's eyes? What if Tuco, fueled by pure adrenaline and blue meth, was just a fraction of a second faster? The timeline splits. Picture it. The desert silence is shattered. Tuco is bleeding from the gut. Remember, Jesse had already shot him, but he is like a wounded animal, more dangerous than ever. He spots Hank's SUV. He grabs his assault rifle. Hank takes cover behind his door. The glass shatters. Bullets are chewing up the metal. It is deafening. In our new timeline, Hank fumbles the reload. Maybe his hands are too sweaty from the desert heat. Maybe the panic sets in just a little too deep. He drops the magazine. That split second, that is all it takes. Tuco Salamanca doesn't wait. He doesn't hesitate. He screams that legendary scream, "Whoa, tight," and charges the vehicle. He rounds the corner of the door, while Hank is still reaching for his backup clip. Blam, blam, blam. It's over. Hank Schrader, the man who was supposed to hunt Heisenberg, the man who was the moral anchor of the show, collapses into the dust. The desert goes silent again, save for the heavy, manic breathing of Tuco Salamanca and the rhythmic creak, creak, creak of Jesse's lowrider bouncing in the background. The view from the berm. Now pan the camera over to the dirt berm about 50 yards away. This is where the true horror sets in. Walter White and Jesse Pinkman are lying flat on their stomachs, watching. In the original show, they see Hank win. They feel a mix of terror and relief because Tuco is dead, but now they have to run. In this timeline, they watch Tuco stand over Hank's body. They see him kick the DEA agent's lifeless form, spitting on him. "Fed! Dirty pig!" Tuco is screaming, firing a few more rounds into the air. Imagine the look on Walter White's face. This isn't just a drug deal gone wrong anymore. This is his brother-in-law. This is family. And he just watched him die because he cooked the meth that got them into this mess. The guilt would be instantaneous and crushing. Jesse is hyperventilating, face buried in the dirt. "Mr. White, oh my God, Mr. White, he killed him. He killed Hank." Walt can't speak. He's frozen. The Heisenberg persona hasn't fully formed yet. This is still mostly Walter White, high school chemistry teacher, in way over his head. And the monster down there, he is still alive. And he knows they tried to poison him. The immediate aftermath. Tuco checks Hank's body. He finds the badge. DEA, he mutters, wiping blood from his own mouth. His paranoia skyrockets. If the DEA is here, more are coming. He thinks his crew ratting him out is what led to this. He doesn't know about the LoJack yet. He assumes this is a raid. He limps back toward the house, dragging his assault rifle. He is hurt bad, but the blue meth is keeping him upright. He looks toward the desert, scanning the horizon. He screams out, "Walter, Jesse, vamonos!" Walt and Jesse have a choice. Run into the infinite desert and die of dehydration, or surrender to the man who just killed a federal agent. But Tuco doesn't give them a choice. He fires a burst into the berm where they are hiding. "I see you. Get down here, or I kill the old man." He drags Tio Salamanca out onto the porch, gun to his head. This is the leverage. Walt and Jesse stumble down the hill, hands up, tears streaming down Jesse's face. Walt is pale, ghost-like. They approach the house, walking past Hank's body. Walt has to look. He sees the family gatherings, the barbecues, the laughs, all extinguished in the dirt. It breaks him. But it also terrifies him into submission. The new reality. Tuco is in overdrive. "Help me with the wound," he orders Walt. He makes them strip Hank's body of weapons and the keys to the DEA SUV. This is a crucial detail. Tuco's car is wrecked. Jesse's car has the hydraulics jumping. They need a vehicle. They take Hank's government-issued commander. "We go to Mexico, now. My cousins are coming, but we meet them on the road. Drive." Tuco throws Tio's wheelchair into the back. He shoves Jesse in the back seat with Tio. He puts Walt in the driver's seat. Tuco sits shotgun, assault rifle pointed at Walt's temple, bleeding all over the upholstery. As they peel out of that dusty driveway, leaving the bodies of Gonzo buried under the cars, and Hank Schrader lying in the open behind. The camera lingers on Hank's sunglasses lying in the dirt. The reflection in the lens shows the DEA SUV speeding away, kicking up a cloud of dust. This is the end of the cat-and-mouse game between Walt and Hank. There will be no WW. Who do you figure that is? There will be no garage door confrontation. There will be no tread lightly. The entire investigation into Heisenberg just died in the desert. But a new, much darker investigation is about to begin. The DEA doesn't just lose agents and shrug. They go to war. Walt is driving south. His hands are gripping the wheel so hard his knuckles are white. He looks in the rearview mirror and sees Jesse crying next to a dinging Hector Salamanca. He looks to his right and sees a dying, raving lunatic. Walter White is no longer a man hiding a secret from his family. He is a fugitive, a cop killer by association. And he is heading straight into the heart of the cartel. Behind the scenes insight. Let's take a breath and think about the production implications here. If this happened, Dean Norris, Hank, is out of a job in Season 2. Can you imagine the show without Hank? He provided the necessary pressure that made Walt's diamond form. Without Hank, Walt has no reason to stay in Albuquerque. The domestic drama, Skylar Flynn, becomes physically separated from the crime drama. Also, think about the tonal shift. Season 1 and early Season 2 had elements of dark comedy. This is pure tragedy. This is No Country for Old Men territory. The show would have become significantly bleaker, much faster. And what about the cousins, the terrifying twin assassins? In the original timeline, they come up to avenge Tuco. In this timeline, they are coming to escort him. Imagine Tuco, Walt, and Jesse meeting up with the cousins in the desert. That is a terrifying amount of Salamanca energy in one scene. As Chapter 1 comes to a close, we have Walt and Jesse crossing the border into Mexico, kidnapped by the cartel, with the DEA eventually finding Hank's body. The manhunt for Heisenberg isn't about a drug dealer anymore. It's about a cop killer. The heat just turned up to 1,000,000 degrees. How does Skylar react when Hank doesn't come home? What does the DEA do when they find the scene? And what happens to a high school chemistry teacher when he is dropped into a super lab south of the border? All right, Breaking Bad fanatics, grab your tissues and maybe a stress ball, because we are diving headfirst into the darkest timeline imaginable. We left off with an image that would haunt our nightmares. Walter White, Jesse Pinkman, a bleeding Tuco, and Tio Salamanca speeding away in a stolen DEA vehicle, leaving the bullet-riddled body of Hank Schrader baking in the New Mexico sun. If you thought the Ozymandias episode from Season 5 was heavy, imagine that level of devastation hitting in Season 2. The pacing of the show just went from 0 to 100 real quick. The discovery, Gomez's worst nightmare. Let's fast forward a few hours. In the original timeline, Hank calls Gomi to brag or ask for backup. Here, silence, dead air. The DEA dispatch is trying to raise ASEC Schrader. Nothing. Eventually, they ping the GPS on his vehicle again, but remember, Tuco and the gang have it. They likely ditch it or disable the tracker once they meet up with the cousins. But the last known location before it went mobile again, leads Gomez and the cavalry to that remote house in the desert. Stephen Gomez arrives. He's the comic relief usually, the loyal sidekick. But today, he walks into a horror movie. He sees the shattered glass. He sees the blood. And then he sees him. Hank. This is a pivotal what-if moment for Gomez. In the show, he's the rock. Here, he breaks. The sight of his partner executed in the dirt changes the DNA of the Albuquerque DEA office instantly. It's no longer an investigation. It's a crusade. The scene is taped off. Forensics swarm the place like ants. They find footprints, 3 sets heading down the driveway. They find the ricin-laced meth that Tuco spit out, a massive loose end. And they find something else. Walter White's wallet. Wait, what? Yeah, remember? In the confusion of the kidnapping, Walt's stuff was in the house. Or maybe Tuco made him dump his ID to prevent tracking. If they find Walt's wallet at the scene of a DEA agent's murder, the narrative shifts immediately. The police don't think Walt is Heisenberg yet. They think Walter White, the missing teacher, was kidnapped by the same maniac who killed Hank Schrader. The shattering of the White House. Cut to the White residence. Skylar has been putting up missing flyers. She's frantic. Marie is there, trying to support her, complaining that Hank isn't picking up his phone to help with the search. Then, the knock at the door. It's not Walt. It's a phalanx of DEA agents and police officers, hats in hands. But it's not just the local PD. It's the higher-ups. This scene would be gut-wrenching. They break the news to Marie first. Hank is gone, executed in the line of duty. Marie collapses. It's that primal, purple-clad grief we saw flashes of in the show, but amplified by 1,000. But then, the twist. Mrs. White, we also found evidence that your husband was at the scene. We believe he has been taken by the assailants. Skylar's brain short-circuits. Her husband is kidnapped. Her brother-in-law is murdered. The connection is staring her in the face, but she can't see it yet. She assumes Walt was in the wrong place at the wrong time, maybe trying to buy pot from Jesse Pinkman, since Jesse's car is also there. The narrative that spins out in the media is tragic. Hero DEA agent killed, trying to rescue kidnapped teacher. Walt becomes a martyr before anyone knows he's a villain. The road to hell is paved with blue meth. Meanwhile, let's check in on our road trip from hell. They are miles away, having ditched the DEA SUV in a ravine. They've met up with the cousins, Leonel and Marco Salamanca. Here is a cool behind-the-scenes fact for you. The actors, Luis and Daniel Moncada, are actual brothers and former gang members who turned their lives around to become actors. Their silent, robotic intensity was a specific acting choice to contrast with Tuco's explosive energy. In our timeline, we get to see this contrast in a confined space. Tuco is in the back of the cousin's sleek Mercedes, drifting in and out of consciousness. The cousins are driving. Walt and Jesse are shoved in the trunk. Or, if they are lucky, squeezed in the back seat, gun barrels pressed against their ribs. The dynamic here is fascinating. The cousins don't speak. Tuco is raving. He tried to poison me, but he cooks the good stuff. We keep him. Tuco is advocating for Walt's life, paradoxically, because he's the golden goose. As they cross the border, likely through one of those terrifying underground tunnels we saw in Sicario or later in Better Call Saul, Walt realizes the scope of what he's entered. He thought he was a criminal before. No, he was a tourist. Now, he's an immigrant in the land of the cartel. The yellow filter of the camera lens slides over the screen. We are in Mexico, the Super Lab, Jungle Edition. In the original show, Gus Fring builds Walt a pristine stainless steel lab under a laundry. It's corporate. It's sterile. It appeals to Walt's ego. In this what if, Walt and Jesse are taken to a cartel compound in the middle of nowhere. Think of the place where Gus killed the cartel Don in Season 4, but less glamorous. It's dusty, hot, and patrolled by guys with AK-47s who don't care about OSHA regulations. They are thrown into a makeshift lab. It's dirty. The glassware is subpar. Cook, the cousin's gesture. No negotiation. No $3 million for 3 months. Just cook or die. This destroys Walt's ego. He isn't a partner here. He's livestock. He's a cow being milked for blue meth. Jesse is in even worse shape. He's going through withdrawals. He's traumatized. And he's convinced they are dead men walking. Theory time. The Heisenberg transformation. Here is a spicy theory for you guys. In the original show, Walt breaks bad slowly, fueled by pride. In this timeline, does he break bad faster, or does he break down? I argue he becomes a darker, more feral version of Heisenberg much quicker. Why? Because he has no safety net, no Skylar to lie to, no Hank to hide from. He is stripped of his humanity. To survive the cartel, he has to become more ruthless than them. He has to prove he is indispensable. Imagine a scene where the cousins threaten Jesse because he's whining. Walt steps up, not with a science trick like mercury fulminate, but with pure, cold logic. He stares down a cartel boss, maybe Juan Bolsa, and says, "You kill him, you lose the formula. I can't do it alone. You need us." He learns Spanish. He learns the hierarchy. He starts to manipulate the cousins against Tuco, who is recovering but unstable. Walt begins to whisper in ears. He becomes the white devil of the cartel. The ripple effect in Albuquerque back in ABQ, the power vacuum is real. With Tuco gone in Mexico and Hank dead, the local drug trade is in chaos. But guess who is watching? Gus Fring. Gus is the ultimate opportunist. He sees that the Salamancas have retreated to Mexico with the blue sky cook. This infuriates him. That blue meth was his market advantage. Now, his rivals have it. This sets up an epic cartel versus Fring war much earlier than in the show. Gus can't just manipulate Walt. He has to extract him. Maybe Gus hires Mike Ehrmantraut for a Black Ops rescue mission. Can you imagine Mike infiltrating a Salamanca compound in Mexico to steal Walter White back? That is a movie I would pay to see. The emotional anchor. The funeral. We end Chapter 2 with a scene that grounds all this madness. Hank's funeral. It's a massive state affair. Bagpipes, the folded flag given to Marie. Skylar is there, holding Flynn's hand. Flynn is on crutches, looking devastatingly sad. But notice who isn't there. Walt. The empty chair beside Skylar screams volumes. At the wake, Gomez approaches Skylar. "We found something else in the desert, Skylar. We found a gas mask. It had fingerprints." Skylar looks at him, eyes red. "Walt's?" Gomez hesitates. "No, but we found traces of the blue meth on it. The same stuff found in your husband's school equipment." The seed of doubt is planted. Skylar isn't just a grieving widow. She's a detective now. She starts looking at the credit card bills, the second cell phone records she ignored. The fugue state live from Season 1 starts to look different. The chapter closes with a shot of Walt in Mexico, head shaved, forced by lice or heat, not choice, staring into a bubbling reaction vessel. The reflection in the glass isn't the scared teacher anymore. It's a man who realizes he just cooked a batch worth $5 million, and he didn't get a dime. But he's alive. And then the door opens. A man walks in. He's wearing a nice suit, completely out of place in this dirty compound. He looks at Walt with a calm, predatory smile. "Hola, Mr. White. My name is Juan Bolsa. We have much to discuss. Welcome back to the laboratory, team. We are deep in the trenches of the most catastrophic timeline Breaking Bad could have ever taken. Hank Schrader is dead. Walter White and Jesse Pinkman are ghosts vanished into the Mexican desert. The show has morphed from a quirky crime drama into a gritty, sweat-soaked survival thriller that rivals Narcos. If you thought the tension in the RV was bad, you have seen absolutely nothing yet. We are entering the heart of darkness phase of this story, and things are about to get biblical. Let's teleport down south, deep Mexico. We are talking about a location that isn't on Google Maps, a dusty, fortified compound run by the cartel. In the original series, we saw Jesse get flown down to teach the cartel chemists in Season 4. That was a victory lap for Jesse. But here, in Season 2, it is a prison sentence. The conditions are medieval. Walt is cooking in an open-air shed, battling humidity, dust, and flies. Oh, the irony of the fly episode comes early here, folks. He doesn't have his pristine Gale Boetiture setup. He has rusted barrels and dirty glassware. But here is the mind-blowing character shift. Walter White stops complaining. In the show, Walt was always a bit of a diva about his environment, but stripped of his suburban comforts with a gun constantly pointed at his back, the Heisenberg persona hardens like concrete. He realizes that perfection is his only shield. If the product drops below 96%, he dies. If he cries, he dies. If he tries to run, he dies. So, he becomes a machine. There is a fascinating, behind-the-scenes fact about Bryan Cranston's acting method. He often developed backstories for Walt's physical mannerisms. In this timeline, imagine Walt adopting a new posture. He stops hunching. He stands tall. He starts barking orders at the cartel goons in broken Spanish. Más hielo, ahora, more ice, now. The cartel soldiers, who usually respect only violence, start to look at this bald gringo with a mix of confusion and fear. He isn't scared of them anymore, because he has already seen the worst thing imaginable, the death of his family member. And he survived it. He is becoming a mythical figure within the cartel. El Químico Loco. Meanwhile, Jesse Pinkman is not doing well. Aaron Paul is the master of playing trauma, and this would be his Oscar reel. Jesse is the camp dog. He is kicked, mocked, and kept alive only because Walt insists he is necessary for the process. This creates a twisted, intense bond between them. In the canon show, their relationship was toxic father-son. Here, it becomes two soldiers in a foxhole. Walt defends Jesse from Tuco's erratic rage, not out of love, but out of possession. He belongs to me, Walt tells Tuco. It's chilling. It's the moment Walt claims ownership over another human being. Speaking of Tuco, remember how Raymond Cruz wanted out of the show because the character was too intense? In this What If, the writers would have had to dial Tuco down just a notch to keep him sustainable as a long-term villain, or, and here is a spicy theory, they would have accelerated his downfall within the cartel. Tuco is high on his own supply, paranoid and erratic. He takes credit for Walt's product. He tells Don Eladio that he found the genius. This breeds resentment. The cousins, Leonel and Marco, are watching. They are the silent observers, the grim reapers waiting for a command. They see Tuco losing his grip. The internal politics of the Salamanca family begin to fracture. Now, let's slingshot back to Albuquerque, because the fallout there is nuclear. The funeral is over, but the silence in the White House is deafening. Skylar White is alone. And this is where we give Skylar the credit she deserves. A lot of fans gave her hate back in the day, but she was always the smartest person in the room who wasn't Walt. With Walt missing and presumed kidnapped, Skylar starts digging. She doesn't just sit and cry. She goes into detective mode. In the original timeline, she found the phone. Here, she scours the house. She finds the hidden baby monitor receiver in the vent. She finds the stash of cash Walt hadn't managed to move yet. It's not millions, but it's enough. Maybe $20,000 or $30,000 wrapped in foil. The realization hits her like a freight train. Her husband wasn't just a victim, he was a player. But here is the tragic twist. She can't tell the police. If she tells Gomez that Walt had drug money, she destroys the narrative that he is a victim. She ruins Flynn's memory of his father. She voids the life insurance. She becomes the wife of a cop-killer accomplice. Skylar is trapped in a prison of her own making, forced to play the grieving widow while secretly hating the man she is mourning. This internal conflict would have made Anna Gunn's performance absolutely legendary. She starts burning the money in the fireplace, one bill at a time, crying silently. It is a visual metaphor for her life turning to ash. But the real game changer is Gustavo Fring. We cannot forget the Chicken Man. In the canon, Gus is careful. He waits. But in this timeline, his hand is forced. The blue meth, his future product, is flooding the market, but it's coming from the cartel, not him. His distribution lines are drying up. The cartel is squeezing him out. Giancarlo Esposito playing a cornered Gus Fring? Yes, please. Gus calls Mike Ehrmantraut. Find him, he says. Not find out what happened, but find Walter White. Mike does what Mike does best. He bypasses the DEA incompetence. He tracks the trajectory. He finds the witnesses the cops missed. He maybe even interrogates a low-level dealer who saw Tuco's car. Mike figures out that Walt is in Mexico. He's gone, Gus. He's south of the border. He's Salamanca property now, Mike reports, sitting in that dark Los Pollos Hermanos booth. Gus adjusts his tie. The Salamancas are careless. They are impulsive. They will make a mistake. And when they do, we will be there. This sets up a cold war of meth. Gus cannot attack the cartel directly. That is suicide. He needs to orchestrate a surgical strike. He needs to make the cartel want to get rid of Walt. Or he needs to steal him. Let's throw in a what-if theory that fans would have gone wild over. What if Gus Fring tips off the DEA? Think about it. Gus has a direct line to the DEA via his charitable contributions and his closeness to the department. Fun fact, Gus was a big donor to the DEA fun run in the show. Gus could anonymously drop a hint about the location of the kidnappers to Gomez. Why? Chaos. If the DEA raids the Salamanca compound in Mexico with the help of federales, it creates a diversion. In the chaos, Mike could swoop in and extract the asset. It is a 4D chess move that only Fring could pull off. So, the stage is set for the midpoint climax of our season. We have a raid on the horizon. Back in Mexico, the conditions are getting worse. The chemicals are running low. Tuco is screaming at Walt. He puts a gun to Jesse's head. You cook with what you have, or the kid bleeds. Walt looks at the chemicals. He looks at Tuco. He looks at the cousins standing by the door. And, for the first time, Heisenberg decides to make a weapon, not a drug. Remember the phosphine gas from the pilot? Or the mercury fulminate from season 1? Walt spots a canister of industrial cleaning agent. He spots the aluminum scraps. He starts doing the math in his head. He isn't planning a batch. He's planning an explosion. He leans over to Jesse, whispering for the first time in days. When I drop the beaker, you run. You don't look back. You run toward the desert. Jesse's eyes go wide. Mr. White, they'll kill us. They're going to kill us anyway, Jesse. We're on borrowed time. The tension is unbearable. Walt is mixing the precursors. The fumes are rising. Tuco is hovering over his shoulder, sniffing the air. Smells different. Is this the new recipe? The chili pea? Something like that, Walt says. His voice drop-dead calm. This is the moment. The transformation is complete. Walter White has accepted death, which makes him the most dangerous man on the continent. He lifts the beaker. His hand isn't shaking, but just as he is about to drop it, boom! The wall of the compound explodes inward. Debris flies everywhere. Dust clouds engulf the lab. Gunfire erupts instantly. Automatic weapons. It's not the chemical explosion Walt planned. It's an attack. Is it the Federales? Is it the DEA? Or is it a team of mercenaries led by a bald, grumbling ex-cop named Mike? Tuco is thrown back by the blast. He grabs his rifle, screaming, firing blindly into the smoke. The cousins move with robotic precision, returning fire. Walt grabs Jesse and pulls him behind a heavy steel vat. Now, we go now. They are crawling through the chaos. Bullets are zipping over their heads. It is a war zone. This is the action movie version of Breaking Bad we never knew we needed. They reach a hole in the wall created by the blast. They stumble out into the blinding Mexican sunlight. But they aren't alone. A black SUV screeches to a halt in front of them. The back door flies open. Mike Ehrmantraut is there, holding a suppressed pistol. He looks at Walt, then at Jesse. He doesn't smile. He doesn't say, "Welcome." "Get in," Mike growls, "unless you want to stay and explain the chemistry to the Federales." Walt and Jesse dive into the car. As they speed away, leaving the burning compound and a raging Tuco Salamanca behind, Walt looks back. He sees Tuco running out, screaming at the sky, realizing his golden goose has been stolen. This isn't a rescue. It's a transfer of ownership. Walt thinks he is free. He has no idea he just traded a chaotic psychopath for a calculating sociopath. He just traded Tuco for Gus, and the price of his freedom is going to be higher than he can possibly imagine. As the SUV disappears into the dust, we cut to one final shot in Albuquerque. Gomez is sitting at his desk, staring at a board covered in photos of the Salamanca cartel. His phone rings. He picks it up. "Agent Gomez," a distorted voice says. "Look south. The chicken man has your answers." Click. Who made the call? Was it a rival cartel? Was it Hector Salamanca trying to screw over Gus? Or was it Skylar White finding a number she shouldn't have? The screen cuts to black. The credits roll. And the audience is left hyperventilating. This timeline is a runaway train, and the brakes were cut 3 chapters ago. The stakes have shifted from hiding from the law to surviving the war. Walt is now in the belly of the beast, Fring's empire, but he arrives not as a partner, but as a stolen asset, a slave. And Hank? His ghost still hangs over everything. The investigation is about to pivot from a murder hunt to a conspiracy unraveling. Gomez is waking up. Get ready for Chapter 4, because now that Walt is in Gus's grip, the real chemistry begins. And let me tell you, the reaction is going to be volatile. We are back in the lab, folks, and the chemical reaction is becoming unstable. If Chapter 3 was the explosive action movie, Chapter 4 is the psychological horror thriller that Breaking Bad does better than anyone else. We have left the scorching heat of the Mexican desert and entered the sterile, freezing cold precision of Gustavo Fring's empire. Let's recap the insanity. Hank Schrader is dead. Tuco Salamanca is alive but humiliated, his compound in ruins. Walter White and Jesse Pinkman have been extracted, stolen, by Mike Ehrmantraut. They are speeding north, back across the border, hidden in the back of a transport truck or a nondescript van. But here is the mind-blowing twist of this timeline. Walter White cannot go home. Think about that for a second. In the original show, Walt lived a double life. He was a dad by day, drug lord by night. It was stressful, sure, but he had his bed. He had his breakfast bacon. In this timeline, that life is incinerated. He is a missing person. He is a hostage in the eyes of the public. If he walks back into his house now, he has to explain where he has been, why he was with Tuco, and why Hank is dead. He is the primary suspect, or a traumatized victim who knows too much. So, Gus Fring makes the decision for him. Walt is dead to the world. He is a ghost. The golden cage. The van stops. It's night. They aren't at the super lab yet. That's under construction, or perhaps accelerated in this timeline. They are at a safe house, an industrial nondescript building on the outskirts of Albuquerque. Mike opens the door. Out. Walt steps out, shivering. He's still in his dirty clothes from Mexico. He looks at Mike. I need to call my wife. I need to let them know I'm alive. Mike looks at him with those dead, tired eyes. Jonathan Banks is a master of saying everything by saying nothing. You call your wife and you sign her death warrant. The Salamancas are still out there, Walter. They know your face. They know your name. You go home. They kill your family to get to you. You want them safe? You stay dead. This is the moment Walter White truly breaks. He realizes that doing it for the family has resulted in him losing his family entirely. He is safe, yes. He is out of the cage of a psychopath, Tuco, and into the cage of a businessman, Gus. But it is still a cage. Enter the chicken man. The next day, the meeting happens. It's not in a restaurant. It's in the safe house. Gustavo Fring arrives. Immaculate suit, tie perfectly straight. The contrast between him and the filthy, traumatized Walt and Jesse is jarring. Giancarlo Esposito's performance here would be chilling. In the canon, he courted Walt. Here, he owns him. Mr. White, Gus says, his voice calm, devoid of the manic energy of Tuco. I have invested considerable resources to retrieve you. You have a unique skill. I have a unique need. Walt tries to posture. He tries to summon Heisenberg. I'm not your employee. I want 50%. Gus doesn't even blink. You are a man with no leverage. The cartel wants you dead. The DEA wants you for questioning regarding the murder of Agent Schrader. I am the only reason you are breathing. You will cook. I will pay you a salary. And I will ensure your family receives money anonymously. But you belong to me. This is indentured servitude on a massive scale. Jesse is sobbing in the corner, just broken. He just wants to go home. But he can't either. They are roommates in hell. The blue sky returns. We get a montage. It's not the fun, crystal blue persuasion montage. It's dark, industrial, grinding. Walt and Jesse are set up in a provisional lab, maybe the basement of the laundry before it was finished. The equipment is top-tier stainless steel German engineering. It's a chemist's dream, but it feels like a prison. They cook. The blue sky starts hitting the streets of Albuquerque again, but this time the streets are different. The DEA is on a warpath. The DEA's holy war. Let's check in on Agent Gomez. The Albuquerque DEA office is a beehive. They aren't looking for a mystery cook anymore. They are looking for cop killers. The vibe is aggressive. Doors are being kicked down. Low-level dealers are being beaten for info. The Civil Rights Handbook has been thrown out the window because one of their own was executed. Gomez is staring at the lab results. The blue meth is back. He's alive, Gomez whispers. He's cooking again. But Gomez is confused. The meth is appearing in unexpected places. It's not in Salamanca territory. It's moving through different channels, distribution networks that are cleaner, more organized. Here is a theory moment. Gomez is smarter than we give him credit for. He starts to see the pattern. The Salamancas are chaotic. This new distribution, it's corporate. He starts to suspect that a third player has entered the game. The Phantom Kingpin. Schuyler's investigation deepens. Back at the White House, the tragedy is palpable. People are bringing casseroles. Flynn is despondent. But Schuyler is vibrating with anxiety. She found the money. She knows Walt was involved. But now, with him missing, she is in limbo. Then she notices something. A deposit in her bank account. Anonymous. Donation. A structure she doesn't recognize. It's Gus's money. He's keeping his word, laundering money into the White family accounts through a charitable front. Maybe SaveWalterWhite.com gets hacked or co-opted in this timeline. Or maybe just a generic Victims of Crime fund. Schuyler tracks the routing number. It leads to a shell company. Madrigal Electromotive. Boom. Schuyler White, amateur sleuth, finds the thread that the DEA missed. Why? Because she has the financial records. She was an accountant. She sees the irregularities. She realizes that whoever has her husband is paying her off. This isn't a ransom. It's a salary. This sets Schuyler on a collision course with Gus Fring. Can you imagine a scene where Schuyler walks into Los Pollos Hermanos, not to eat, but to stare down the manager? She doesn't know it's Gus yet, but she's circling the Salamanca retaliation now for the facts regarding the cartel. The Salamancas do not forgive. Tuco is alive in this timeline, remember? He's in Mexico, recovering from the explosion. He is burnt, scarred, and more insane than ever. Two-Face style. He knows someone attacked him. He knows someone stole his cooks. He tells his uncles, the cousins. It was the chicken man. I saw the hired help. This accelerates the timeline of Breaking Bad Season 3 and 4 dramatically. The cartel doesn't wait. They declare war. We cut to a scene on the border. A Los Pollos Hermanos truck is stopped. The driver is pulled out. It's not a hijacking for drugs. It's a message. The cousins slaughter the driver and spray paint sangre por sangre, blood for blood, on the side of the truck with the driver's blood. Gus receives the photo of the truck. He adjusts his glasses. He knows what's coming. He needs an army. The transformation of Jesse Pinkman. In the quiet moments in the lab, something shifts in Jesse. In the show, Jesse was the moral compass. Here, his trauma is hardening him. He watched Hank die. He was tortured by Tuco. Now he's a prisoner of Gus. He stops crying. He starts getting angry. "Mr. White," Jesse says one night, staring at the ceiling of their bunk room, "we aren't making it out of here, are we?" "We just need to bide our time, Jesse. I'll think of something." "No," Jesse says, "you won't. You like it here. You like the equipment. You like being the best. You don't care that Hank is dead. You just care that the product is good." Walt turns on him. "How dare you? Everything I do is for yourself," Jesse cuts him off. This is the earliest breach of their relationship. Jesse sees the monster clearly now, and he decides he's going to escape, with or without Walt. The climax of the chapter, the videotape. We end Chapter 4 with a technological twist. Gus Fring is smart, but he needs insurance. He needs to ensure the cartel knows that he has the power, but he can't admit it publicly. He has Mike film Walt cooking. Just a shot of his hands, the blue product, and then Walt's face. Gus sends this tape to the cartel via a secure channel. It's a flex. It says, "I have the king, you have nothing." But the tape leaks. Or maybe it's intercepted. The final scene. The DEA office. Late at night. Gomez is exhausted. An encrypted file lands in his inbox. It was forwarded by an unknown source. Maybe a rival cartel member. Maybe Tuco trying to burn Gus's house down. Gomez clicks play. The screen flickers. He sees the high-tech lab. He sees the blue crystals. And then he sees the face of the chemist. Walter Hartwell White. Alive. Cooking. Gomez's coffee cup drops to the floor. Shatter. The narrative has just exploded. Walt isn't a victim. He's not a hostage in the traditional sense. He's the cook. The link is undeniable. The DEA now knows that the mild-mannered chemistry teacher is the engine behind the blue meth. The manhunt shifts targets. It's no longer save Walter White. It's capture Heisenberg. And at that exact moment, in the safe house, Walt is staring at a fly, buzzing around the room. He climbs up on a chair to swatch it. He slips. He falls. He laughs. A manic, terrifying laugh that echoes in the empty room. The crawl space moment arrives early, but this time, nobody is coming to save him. The board is set for the final showdown. The DEA knows. Schuyler knows. The cartel is coming, and Gus is standing in the middle, holding the leash of a rabid dog. How does this end? Does Walt go to jail? Does he die? Or does he burn it all down? This is it, Breaking Bad family. We have arrived at the shattered, smoking crater of our finale. If you thought the face-off explosion was intense, or the Felina machine gun scene was legendary, what we are about to witness in this timeline makes those look like a high school chemistry experiment. We have spent 4 chapters dismantling the slow-burn morality tale of Walter White and replacing it with a high-octane survival horror story. Hank Schrader is dead. Tuco Salamanca is a scarred, vengeful demon haunting the border. Gus Fring is holding the leash of a genius chemist who has nothing left to lose. And the DEA, they just saw a ghost. When Agent Stephen Gomez watches that video of Walter White cooking the blue meth, the silence in the DEA office is heavier than a neutron star. We are talking about a paradigm shift that usually takes 5 seasons to achieve, happening right here in the middle of our story. In the original timeline, Gomez was the loyal soldier, the guy who made jokes about El Paso. Here, he is a man possessed. He isn't looking for a drug dealer anymore. He is looking for the monster who murdered his partner. The moment that file finishes playing, Gomez doesn't call Washington. He doesn't call a press conference. He walks to the armory. He grabs a shotgun. He grabs a vest. He rallies the team. This is a Zero Dark 30 style raid, but instead of bin Laden, they are hunting a high school teacher. Let's pause for a crazy what-if production fact. Did you know that the writers originally considered having Walt get caught much earlier? The idea was that the show would then shift to a prison drama or a fugitive run. In this timeline, we are living that reality. The cat and mouse game is over. The cat just kicked down the door, and the mouse is cornered. Meanwhile, at the safe house, or let's call it what it is, the cell, Walt and Jesse are scrubbing vats. The tension between them is toxic. Jesse is plotting. He has been eyeing a shard of glass from a broken beaker. He's looking at Mike, calculating the odds. But Walt is lost in the chemistry. He is mumbling about purity, about yield. He has dissociated from the reality that he is a prisoner. This is the ultimate defense mechanism of the ego. If he focuses on the science, he doesn't have to think about Hank rotting in the desert. But Gustavo Fring is always 3 steps ahead. The moment that video leaked, whether it was Tuco's revenge or a cartel hack, Gus knew. The phone rings in the lab. Mike answers. He listens for 3 seconds. Understood. He hangs up and looks at Walt and Jesse. Pack up. We're moving. Now. Mike knows the drill. Burn the site. Erase the evidence. Liquidate the liabilities. And in this moment, liabilities might just mean the 2 cooks. This is where the chaos theory kicks in. As Mike is ushering them toward the van, the perimeter alarms scream. Is it the DEA? No, it's too loud, too messy. An RPG, yes, a rocket-propelled grenade, streaks through the night sky and blows the security gate off its hinges. The Salamanca cousins have arrived, and they brought Tuco. Imagine the visual. The cousins in their silver suits, moving like Terminators, flanking a burnt, limping, manic Tuco who is screaming Heisenberg at the top of his lungs. They aren't here for the meth. They are here for blood. They want to peel the skin off the man who humiliated them. Mike Ehrmantraut, the ultimate professional, is suddenly in a war zone he can't control. He shoves Walt and Jesse behind the van and opens fire with his suppressed H&K. The sound design here would be insane. The quiet thwip-thwip of Mike's professional shots versus the deafening boom-boom of the cousins' hand cannons. But remember the DEA? They are rolling up the street right now. Gomez sees the explosion. He sees the tracers. He thinks the suspects are destroying evidence. Breach! 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 He screams. The DEA armored truck smashes through the burning wreckage of the gate, plowing straight into the middle of a cartel firefight. It is absolute anarchy, a 3-way standoff between Fring's mercenaries, the Salamanca hit squad, and the federal government. This is the Battle of Albuquerque that the show hinted at, but never fully gave us until the end. In the confusion, Mike is pinned down. He looks at Walt. Stay down! But Walt sees an opening. The chemistry teacher who was afraid of a squeaky wheel in Season 1 is gone. He sees the chaos not as a threat, but as a ladder. He grabs Jesse. Run! They sprint through the smoke. Bullets are chewing up the concrete around them. They run toward the back of the industrial park, toward a drainage ditch. But as they crest the berm, a figure rises from the smoke. It's Tuco. Tuco Salamanca, half his face bandaged, eyes wide with drug-fueled madness, blocks their path. He raises his assault rifle. Tight, 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 he screams, a twisted echo of their first meeting. He has them dead to rights. Jesse freezes, terrified. Walt stares down the barrel. This is it, the end of the road. Blam! Tuco's chest explodes. He drops like a sack of potatoes. Walt spins around, standing there, 50 yards away, silhouetted by the flashing police lights, is Agent Stephen Gomez. He just took the shot that Hank couldn't take. He just saved the life of the man who got his partner killed. The irony is thick enough to choke on. Gomez lowers his rifle, panting. He locks eyes with Walt. For a split second, time stops. Gomez sees his friend's brother-in-law. He sees the victim. He starts to run toward him. Walt, get down. You're safe. Gomez doesn't know. He saw the video, but in the heat of the moment, seeing Walt terrified in the dirt, his instinct is to protect the civilian. He thinks Walt is a hostage being chased by the cartel. Walt looks at Gomez. He looks at the freedom of the dark drainage ditch behind him. He looks at Jesse, and then Walter White makes the choice that defines this entire timeline. I'm sorry, Gomi, Walt whispers. Walt doesn't run toward Gomez. He doesn't surrender. He grabs Jesse by the collar and drags him away from the DEA, plunging into the darkness of the drainage tunnel. Walt, stop, Gomez screams, realizing too late what is happening. He raises his weapon again, but he hesitates. That hesitation, born of years of barbecues and family dinners, costs him. Walt and Jesse vanish into the shadows. The aftermath of the battle is a smoking ruin. The cousins are dead, taken out by the sheer volume of DEA fire. Mike escapes in the confusion, ghosting away like he always does, calling Gus to say, "The asset is lost." Gus Fring sits in his office, adjusts his tie, and realizes his empire is exposed. He has to go to ground. The war with the cartel is over, but the war with the FBI is just beginning. So, where does that leave us? We cut to 3 months later. The Heisenberg case is the biggest story in America. It's bigger than O.J. It's bigger than Al Capone. The photos of Walter White, the mild-mannered teacher turned cop-killing drug lord, are on every magazine cover. Skylar White has been interrogated by the FBI a dozen times. She lost the house. She's living in a small apartment, working a double shift at a diner, staring at the news every night, wondering if she's a victim or an accomplice. And somewhere in the Badlands, maybe in a cabin in New Hampshire, or maybe deep in the Yucatan, 2 men sit in a dim room. Jesse Pinkman looks 10 years older. He has a beard. His eyes are hollow. He is cooking beans on a hot plate. Walter White sits by the window. He is completely bald. He wears dark sunglasses. He is looking at a newspaper with his own face on it. He isn't scared anymore. He isn't anxious. He traces the headline. Search for Heisenberg continues. A small, cold smile creeps across his face. He didn't do it for the family. He didn't do it for the money. He did it because he was good at it. And in this timeline, he is the greatest who ever lived because he is the one who got away. The camera pulls back out of the window, rising higher and higher, showing the vast, indifferent landscape. The world thinks Walter White is a monster, and they are right. But he is a free monster. This timeline ends not with a bang, but with a whisper. The legend of Heisenberg isn't a tragedy of a man dying in a lab. It's the horror story of a man who is still out there, cooking somewhere in the dark,